don't you just use satellite internet service? Why don't you just use Global Star or Starlink? You said the cost is $4,000 per person in Louisiana. For $600, you can buy a Starlink terminal. Why don't you just do that? And do it across America and save a bunch of money.
Billions of federal dollars are still being spent to expand broadband across America, but the debate over how that money should be used is far from over. After the Trump administration overhauled the BEAD broadband program to make it technology neutral, supporters argued satellite internet could save taxpayers billions, while critics continued pushing fiber as the long-term solution. That national debate reached the Senate Commerce Committee when Senator John Kennedy challenged Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick over broadband costs, and one simple question quickly stole the hearing.
The Census Bureau is in charge of defining what it means to be poor or in poverty in America. Is that correct?
I think it does economic analysis for America.
But it also defines poverty level, does it not?
I don't know if it's the defining
well, you need
Bureau.
to look, because it does.
Okay.
If you know, this isn't a quiz, if you know, what's the percentage of Americans who live at or below the poverty level?
I don't know the percentage.
Okay, it's around 11%. It's been constant. Now, when the Census Bureau defines poverty, they do it by income. You're aware of that. When the Census Bureau defines poverty using income, they only count income that the individual earns or cash income that the individual gets from the federal government. Is that correct?
Well, it includes all sources of their income. I mean, that is the purpose.
Yeah, their income and cash income from the federal government. Is that correct?
Oh, meaning does it include income that they receive from the federal government?
Yeah, cash.
I think so.
Yeah. So if a person makes $11,000 a year, that's considered toward poverty level. But if the person gets a cash payment, let's say in the form of SSI or TANF, that counts too. Is that right?
I'm not certain.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Are you aware that your agency doesn't count non-cash payments from the federal government defining poverty?
I am not.
Are you aware that your agency doesn't count refundable earned income tax credits, or food stamps, or housing subsidies, or utility bill subsidies, or Medicaid, or free school meals? They don't count that. They call it a non-cash payment, and it doesn't count. You aware of that?
It sounds to me that you and I are going to spend some time together and we're going to change it, but I did not know that, and it sounds like something that we should add.
And the purpose of my questioning is not to punish people who need help. The American people are the most generous people in the world. That's why we spend $1.4 trillion a year helping people that other countries would allow to die in a ditch. But your Census Bureau says it's 11% who live at or below the poverty level. That's a lie. It's 1%. If you count as any person with a brain above a single-cell organism would, cash and non-cash payments, they're above the poverty level. And we ought to be honest with the American people and thank them for getting the poverty level down to 1% instead of giving them a curb stomping and calling them selfish. Let me give you a real-life example here. Let's suppose you've got a mom and 2 kids. According to your Census Bureau, the poverty level for her is $27,000. She makes $11,000 a year, let's say. So she's below the poverty level. But she also qualifies for $3,400 in refundable tax credits based on her $11,000 salary, $9,200 in food stamps, that's for her and her 2 children, $9,500 in housing subsidies, $900 in utility bill subsidies, $16,000 in Medicaid, $3,100 a year in free school lunches, and $6,600 a year in TANF. That's $64,100 a year, tax-free. Is she living in poverty?
Doesn't sound like it.
No, but your Census Bureau counts her as being poor. I'm not saying take away her benefits. I'm saying give the American people a little credit. And I really think you need to change the definition to a definition that looks like somebody designed the damn thing on purpose. Final question, I'm going to hurry, Mr. Chairman. Why don't you just use satellite internet service? Why don't you just use Global Star or Starlink? You said the cost is $4,000 per person in Louisiana. For $600, you can buy a Starlink terminal. Why don't you just do that? And do it across America and save a bunch of money.
The states were responsible for determining the best outcome, and sometimes fiber in a dense location can be economically better. Sometimes satellite does not work best on geography.
It can't be cheaper. That's impossible. Can't be cheaper.
Math is, each of the states did their best. We worked it out with them, and we moved on.
I just don't understand. You can buy, I'm not saying do Musk. There are others that just throw it out for bid. But $600 for a terminal versus $4,000 for fiber optic? This is taxpayer money. I'm done. I'm sorry.
Following the Trump administration's overhaul of the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment, or BEAD, program in 2025 and 2026, the Department of Commerce formally shifted to a technology-neutral approach. Instead of favoring fiber by default, states are now allowed to compare fiber, fixed wireless, and low Earth orbit satellite systems, including providers such as Starlink, when determining the most cost-effective way to connect unserved communities. The administration argued this change would accelerate broadband deployment, reduce unnecessary spending, and give states greater flexibility. That policy shift has remained controversial. Several states revised their broadband plans to comply with the new federal guidance, while broadband industry groups, consumer advocates, and some state officials warned that relying too heavily on satellite technology could reduce long-term network capacity. Others welcomed the change, arguing that rural communities should not have to wait years for expensive fiber construction when satellite systems can provide high-speed service much sooner. As billions of federal broadband dollars continue to be distributed, the debate over fiber versus satellite remains one of the most closely watched infrastructure issues in Washington. Those developments explain why Senator John Kennedy focused almost entirely on cost. Kennedy questioned why taxpayers should spend thousands of dollars to connect a single household through fiber infrastructure when commercially available satellite equipment could often be installed for only a fraction of that amount. Using Louisiana as an example, he challenged Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick over broadband projects that he said were costing roughly $4,000 per location, arguing that lower-cost satellite technology deserved much greater consideration. Although Kennedy referenced Starlink during his questioning, he made clear that his broader argument was not about selecting one company over another. Instead, he argued that the federal government should encourage open competition among all qualified broadband providers and choose whichever technology delivers reliable internet service at the lowest cost to taxpayers. Secretary Lutnick defended the administration's approach by explaining that broadband deployment decisions ultimately rested with the states. According to Lutnick, different technologies serve different environments. Fiber may provide better long-term value in densely populated areas where many homes can share the same infrastructure, while satellite and other wireless technologies may be better suited for remote communities where laying fiber is significantly more expensive. That exchange highlighted one of the biggest policy questions facing the BEAD program. Supporters of satellite internet argue that modern low Earth orbit systems have dramatically improved performance while reducing deployment costs and construction time. They believe taxpayers should not automatically fund expensive fiber projects when other technologies can deliver acceptable broadband service more quickly. Supporters of fiber reach a different conclusion. They argue that although fiber requires higher upfront investment, it generally offers greater capacity, lower latency, higher reliability, and a much longer service life. From that perspective, paying more today may reduce future infrastructure costs while supporting economic growth for decades. It is important to distinguish between the facts presented during the hearing and the competing policy arguments. The hearing was not about whether Americans deserve broadband access. Both lawmakers agreed on that objective. The disagreement centered on how federal money should be spent and which technologies provide the best long-term value for taxpayers under different geographic and economic conditions. Looking back, this hearing captured a debate that continues today. As the Commerce Department, state governments, and private broadband providers move forward with one of the largest infrastructure investments in recent history, lawmakers will continue weighing cost, speed, competition, and long-term performance. The choices made during that process will determine not only how quickly rural America gets connected, but also how efficiently billions of taxpayer dollars are spent for years to come.